17 minutes past 8. It's the fourth day of the 2018 World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, where leaders of the world's most powerful nations are meeting. The event brings together around 2,500 delegates from the worlds of business, politics, finance and media. Team South Africa is led by Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa and a group of cabinet ministers. To find out more, let's cross over to this ski resort of Davos, where our finance reporter Francis Hurd is standing by. Francis, you are freezing. I know that. You have told me. Like, seriously, what temperatures are we talking about there?
So listen, it has been worse in Davos. We're on about -3 at the moment. Last time I was here 2 years ago, -15. So -3 is actually pretty good. But spare a thought for the global elite and us here in Davos, because the snow is incredibly thick. I don't know if you can see behind me, but you spend a lot of time in cars. Over the last few days, there hasn't been more snow, at least, but a lot of clearing of the snow, and people get up on their roofs and push the snow off because they're terrified that their roofs will collapse in. Trucks have to come and clear it. So really, you spend a lot of time in cars, and you know, Donald Trump, the US president, was expected to get a frosty reception, so yeah. Here it is.
So in every sense of the word. I'm going to get to that in a short while. I first want to talk about South Africa and also tell you, I'm going to be like your mother. Zip that up, for goodness sakes. I can see your neck, and that's one place you can keep warm. So do that later. You've got to look good for TV in the meantime. So, Francis, let's talk about this. I mean, we've been seeing such positive results coming from the World Economic Forum, and I suppose our sort of sign that things are going well is looking at the currency. I mean, 11.85. I suppose now you can buy half a cold drink there now. I mean, you must be so happy. A little bit less than you thought.
Delighted. And Leanne, all I can tell you is it feels very different this time. Fortunately, I have been here before. And I remember at that time, South Africa was saying what they say every year. They come in numbers to Davos because it's a great place to mingle with investors. The real value is not always in the open fora where people speak and debate the big issues, but the real value is the meetings that can happen behind closed doors. And I've been before in South Africa, we're saying we want to meet investors. We are open for business. This has been our mantra for years and years and years. But often it hasn't been backed up with real action. And I can just tell you that this time feels totally different. The business people are saying that they used to find it difficult to set up the meetings that they wanted with the people that they wanted. Now it is incredibly easy. There's real interest in South Africa, in Cyril Ramaphosa, in his leadership of the ANC. They're seeing that things have already changed at Eskom, and he was talking about that last night, saying that one of the business delegates said we may as well not go because of Eskom. That is such a crisis that we can't sit in Davos while it's not being dealt with. And he said that led to action. But yeah, I spoke to Maria Ramos, the head of Barclays Africa. She was commended by Ramaphosa for being here 18 years in a row. And she did tell us that this is the best Davos ever. So that puts it in perspective if she's been here for nearly 2 decades.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible to hear. And I'm so happy that people are now queuing up to see South Africa, because we really do need this. I also want to ask you about our neighbor, Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa is there. He's also trying to win favor of world leaders. How's he doing? I mean, have we also noticed a lot more interest in Zimbabwe?
I think so, and he was on one of the main panels, and look, that's where we have been missing. Maybe it's easier when a president is here to invite them to come up, and those main sessions are televised live all over the world. And he was talking, saying the same thing that South Africa has been saying, that Zimbabwe, and he's saying that the time is now. They are open for business now. I think this is his first trip. We we've been trying to speak to him, and I spoke to some of his people, and they're feeling, I think, overwhelmed, actually, at the interest in Zimbabwe. And he did meet with Cyril Ramaphosa, who spoke about it last night, saying that that meeting was very constructive, and a lot of good words, saying, you know, they're both deputies and they stick together. And it is interesting, yeah, that they're both here at a time of change, both talking about economic renewal, although Zimbabwe is saying very different things to what South Africa is saying. They have been saying that local investors need 51% of businesses. That's deterred some foreign investment, so they're actually backtracking on that. They're talking about compensation for landowners who had their land taken, when we're talking about expropriation. So maybe two different paths, but both making a very strong showing here. And it seems like African leaders are using this opportunity to talk, to speak. And remember, one of the things that we've all wanted is regional integration. You want to be able to trade very easily with Zimbabwe. And in the past, it's an old saying, but it's been said that it's easier to send goods to London than up in Africa. So hopefully that'll lead to real regional integration, more trade across the continent.
Yeah. Now, I think a big moment. So we've got a big moment today. South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, our deputy president, is set to address the World Economic Forum as well, and some leaders. Any ideas? I suppose you've got a lot of clues about what he's going to be talking about, because he has been speaking on the sidelines and having lots of meetings. But what's the key message?
He's been very frank, Leanne. Yesterday there was a Team SA dinner and some invited guests. The president of Mauritius was there, and he was saying we need to be honest, and I think he's going to do that again today. He will be speaking at a press conference, which is crucial for South Africa, because the world's media is there at that media center. It's a great opportunity to reach out to the world. And the theme of this Davos is creating a shared future in a fractured world. So a lot of people are talking about US President Donald Trump representing that fracture, etc. But he's been frank, and last night he said that South Africa has a fractured past. South Africa has a fractured present. I was quite amazed at what he was saying. But he was saying everything that the ANC is going to do from now is going to be to take the country forward. So it seems to be a recognition that we have to be honest and frank about the things that have deterred investors, about the state of state-owned entities. He said that corruption will be rooted out, that state-owned entities will no longer be there to help families, so alluding to the claims of corruption floating around many of our SOEs, and saying that whatever they're talking about here, the renewal, they will back up with real action.
All right. Now, just finally on a closing note, and we cannot talk about the World Economic Forum without the arrival of the US President Donald Trump. We saw from Washington that he has left. He is en route. This, as you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, is what many are expecting to be a very frosty reception in terms of weather and from the delegates attending. In fact, there's even been word that many countries are going to be boycotting his address, including South Africa. I mean, and let's not forget that President Donald Trump of the US has put South Africa, as well as the rest of Africa and other nations, in a category of S-holes, and that is a big problem. What is going to happen when he arrives there?
It's major. So, talking about the African presidents first, Cyril Ramaphosa was discussing this last night. Too much joviality, saying, look, his schedule means he has to leave. So it's not being touted as some sort of official boycott. But he did say that the other African leaders that he's spoken to are all suggesting that they need to leave early. And he did go as far as saying that some of them said they're out of here. And that's possibly because of Donald Trump. There's huge distaste for the words he used and just his general attitude towards our continent. Also, everybody knows that the traffic today is going to be mad because already it's been very difficult. This is a very small ski resort, but it takes a long time to get across it at the moment. Sometimes you're spending hours. And yesterday, there were just helicopters flying overhead all the time. So the sense is that the US president is going to arrive with this huge security contingent that is just going to make life even more difficult. So not an official boycott, but a lot of the leaders saying they're leaving, a lot of the business leaders saying they're leaving as well. And there is, however, interest in what on earth is President Trump going to say. And it's interesting because the US hasn't been here for many years, not in the form of the presidency coming. And China has used the void to be very present at Davos sessions in recent years, talking about how they want to integrate with the rest of the world. And I went to a session on China yesterday, and they were talking about dropping trade barriers, dropping tariffs to allow more trade with the world. At the same time, when the US is talking about the America first, protecting their interests. So there's this huge contrast. But I will say there's a lot of interest in what he will say, and I'm interested to know if the protesters will be allowed in. A lot of people are itching to come here, but apparently the Swiss authorities thus far have said because of the snow, they can't. So we'll have to wait and see.
Francis Hurd, thanks very much for talking to us. Zip up that jacket, get indoors and keep warm. With all due respect, it does look beautiful behind you, so I'm a little bit jealous, I have to say, although when I walk outside, I probably won't be jealous at all. Francis Hurd, reporting to us from Davos, Switzerland, where the World Economic Forum is taking place, and of course, we are going to be receiving the arrival of US President Donald Trump there today.